I'm Tamara, and today we are going to be making these adorable little first aid kits. I think this is the perfect project to sew as summer is right around the corner. My boys have 2 more weeks left of school, and I will be throwing one of these, probably the small one, into my purse and taking it everywhere that I go. So I have 3 sizes here that you can make for yourself. We've got a large, and then a medium, and finally we have a small. Now I have a blog post where I have written all of the measurements, so the final measurements of all 3 of these bags, as well as all of the measurements that you need to be able to cut out all your fabric. All those extra little details will all be found in that blog post. Now let's jump on in and get sewing some adorable first aid kits. We will start by making the plus sign first because this step is the same for all 3 sizes. So you will take your 2 outer main fabric pieces, which will measure at 1 1/4 inches by 2 1/2 inches. And then you will take the 1 piece of your plus sign fabric, most likely it'll be red or white, and that will also measure at 1 1/4 inches by 2 1/2 inches. You will sew all 3 of these pieces together and then press the back seams open. Then you will cut these in half. It should measure at 1 1/4 inches to cut these in half. You will end up with your 2 strips, and then you will put your second piece of fabric in between the 2 and you will sew them in as well. And that piece should measure at 1 1/4 inches by 2 3/4 inches. This will create your plus sign for the center. All of this will be sewn using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Then you will press those seams open as well. Once you have your plus sign sewn, then you want to add your 2 side pieces onto that. Now all of the side pieces measure differently, but they will all be the same height, and your height will be 2 3/4 inches. Sew those onto the side using that 1/4 inch seam allowance once again. To finish the front panel, you will take the top of the plus sign piece and the bottom of the plus sign piece, and you will attach them as well using a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and again press those seams open. Now it's time to quilt our front panel and our back panel. So lay them onto your thin batting, and you can either pin a whole bunch of pins onto your fabric so that your fabric doesn't move around, or you can use a spray based. I've done both methods, they both work great, and you will just quilt it however you like. I quilted it just with straight seams. I found that it was the easiest and I could just follow the side of my sewing foot along the seam, so I was able to just go across that way. Now because I matched my thread to the main fabric, I did not want that thread to go over the plus sign. So I didn't ever start or stop with a back stitch when I was going across the entire main panel, but I would do a small back stitch when I would get to the plus sign, and then I would go across to the other side of the plus sign, do a small back stitch, and then continue along to the outer edge. Once your outer panels are quilted, then you can trim them up so you have some nice straight edges, and then just lay the 2 lining pieces on top of this, and you may need to trim it down a little bit. It really will depend how much trimming you end up doing on your panels. You just want to make sure that your lining pieces are the exact same size as your outer panels. Now it's time to make a zipper sandwich. So take one of your panels, lay it right side face up, and then take your zipper and lay it right side, so the teeth side face down along the top, and then you can pin it in place. Now make a mental note of which way you want to open up your pocket. I actually did not do this, so I've got my zipper opening from right to left, but if you want your zipper opening from left to right, then just flip it around. Just make sure that your zipper teeth are still face down. Once you've pinned that in place, then take your lining fabric and lay it right side down on top of that, and then pin it in place, and make sure of course that all of your fabric is neatly in those pins and nothing is out of place. Then you will take it to your sewing machine, and by using a zipper foot you will sew across that top edge. Now, as you probably already noticed, the previous clip I was using a zipper that was longer than my fabric, but in the measurements I did give you the exact zipper that you would need for your project. So if you are actually using the correct zipper length, then it should line up along your front panel. You'll just be able to lay it down, clip it in the exact same way that I just explained, but when you bring it to your sewing machine, that zipper head can get in your way. So when you start, make sure that zipper head is open and sitting around halfway in your panel, and then you can sew down, and then when you get to that zipper head, just keep the needle down in your fabric, lift up your sewing foot, and then pull the zipper head out of the way. Then you'll be able to put your sewing machine foot back down and continue sewing to the end. Once you've sewn your first panel and your first piece of lining in place, then just open it up, finger press that crease along that zipper's edge, and you will take it back to your sewing machine to sew a top stitch along the top of that fabric. What this is doing is it's going to hold your lining out of the way once your project is all put together. That way, when you're using the zipper, it doesn't get caught on the lining fabric. And now it's time to make our second zipper sandwich. So take your first panel, lay it so that your main fabric is face up, and then lay your backing main fabric panel right side down on top of that and clip it into place. Then turn it over and lay your lining fabric right side face down, also clipping that into place, making sure that there's no wrinkles within the fabric. And then you can take that back to your sewing machine and with that zipper foot, sew along that top edge. Then you will open up your project, finger press that edge along that zipper, and sew another top stitch along that top edge so that your lining fabric is held away from your zipper teeth on both sides. Now it's time to line up our lining pieces together and our outer panels together and clip around that entire outer edge. Now it's probably easier to open up your zipper halfway right now, but I didn't do this when I was filming, so I will open up my zipper halfway later on, but it is very, very important to make sure that that zipper is open halfway, because once you sew around this project, you need to be able to turn it right side out, and you'll be able to do that if the zipper is open halfway. So as you can see here, I'm pinning, but I'm not really pinning near the four corners, and that's because we are going to cut away our four corners. So once everything is pinned in place, then grab a ruler of some kind and mark a 1-inch square away from all four corners. You'll do a 1-inch square if you're making the small or medium size pouch. If you're making the large pouch, I actually recommend doing a 1.5-inch square. Cut those squares out of the way. See, now that I've got my squares cut out of the way, I'm cluing in that my zipper I did not open, and that's very important. So I'm just moving some of those clips out of the way, opening up that zipper to make sure the zipper head is at least in the center of my project, and then clipping it back up. Now it's at this point, if you did use a zipper longer than your project, just clip away the excess of your zipper, making sure, of course, that that zipper head is in the center before you clip it away. Now when I clipped around all of the outer edges, I actually like to use a different type of pin on the bottom of my lining fabric, leaving myself about a 3-inch opening. And I use a different pin just to remind myself when I'm sewing that I do not want to sew across that section. Then take this to your sewing machine and you will sew a 1/2-inch seam allowance, starting and stopping with a back stitch, across all four edges, but you will not sew across the four corners that you previously cut away. And of course, you won't sew across that bottom section that you left with those other pins, because you need that to turn your project right side out. Now that you've sewn that 1/2-inch seam allowance along all four sides, leaving of course that little section to turn your project right side out, very important. Now we want to deal with our four corners. So match up those side seams and then pinch your fabric in place, and then of course clip along that top edge. You'll do this for all four corners. Then bring it to your sewing machine, and again you will sew a 1/2-inch seam allowance across all four points. And of course, start and stop with a back stitch. Then reach on into that lining opening and pull your project right side out. Use your fingers to push out those corners of your main fabric, and then pin across that lining opening and sew that shut. Once again, start and stop with the back stitch, and I just try and sew as close to the edge as possible. Then you can push your lining into your little pouch, and for a little bit of extra embellishment, I suggest adding a little bit of ribbon to the end of that zipper. I think it just makes the pouch look so much more finished and adorable. I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please hit that subscribe button so you don't lose me on YouTube, and I really do hope you guys have a wonderful summer. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.